Watching your once full of life teenager transform into someone withdrawn, constantly overwhelmed, and struggling with anxiety or depression can be heart-wrenching. You've likely consulted various healthcare providers, tried different approaches, and perhaps even considered medication. Yet your teen's struggles continue. And what if I told you that the root cause might not be the chemical imbalance that most conventional doctors continue to blame these rapidly exploding teen challenges on? The United States is facing an unprecedented mental health crisis among adolescents. According to the recent CDC data, 44% of American high school students report persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. And even more alarming, nearly 1 in 3 teenage girls report having seriously contemplated suicide, twice the rate of boys. And we could list more stats, but what I want to do with this video is really dive into what's going on from a deeper root cause perspective and how we can help. Because other approaches, traditional medicine typically addresses these challenges with medications aimed at correcting presumed chemical imbalances. But many parents find these approaches merely a mask to the symptoms rather than addressing what's causing this underlying. So what if there's a different perspective? One that explored the neurological roots of your teen's anxiety and depression and offered a drug-free option instead of just more and more medication. This video is for parents who are exhausted and heartbroken watching their teenagers or even middle schoolers struggle with anxiety and depression, especially those who have tried conventional approaches without seeing lasting improvement and who are searching for answers that address root causes rather than just using medications or even supplements to try and cover up the symptoms. We're going to explore how your teen's anxiety and depression may be connected to neurological imbalances, specifically dysautonomia, subluxation, and what we call vagus nerve dysfunction. You'll learn why the traditional chemical imbalance model falls short, how modern lifestyles create a perfect storm of nervous system stress, and most importantly, how neurologically focused chiropractic care can help restore balance and proper function naturally so that your teen can start thriving once again. The prevalence of mental health issues among youth has approximately doubled from 2011 to 2020. And what's particularly interesting is that during this same period, we've seen some positive trends for young people, including reduced alcohol consumption and fewer teen pregnancies. Yet anxiety and depression have continued to surge across all demographics. When we look at the statistics more closely, female adolescents are more than twice as likely as males to experience anxiety. It's 31% to 12%. And depression for females, 25% versus guys, it's 10%. And these aren't just numbers. These represent real teenagers who are suffering, families who are struggling to help them, and a generation whose mental health and well-being is at stake. Many researchers have noted that the sharp rise in teen mental health issues coincide with the widespread adoption of smartphones around 2012, pointing to digital technology as a significant factor. But as we'll explain, the full picture is much more complex and begins much earlier in life. So to kick this off, we're going to start by understanding anxiety and depression in teens from a neurological perspective. Conventional medicine typically views anxiety and depression as a chemical imbalance in the brain that needs to be corrected with medication. But this model misses the deeper neurological foundations. From a neurological perspective, these conditions are often connected to imbalances in the autonomic nervous system, specifically between the sympathetic, that fight or flight response, and the parasympathetic rest and digest functions. And this neurological imbalance, called dysautonomia, that's the fancy word for it, but it represents a crucial but often overlooked root cause that can leave teens stuck in a persistent state of stress and emotional dysregulation, often leading to a chemical imbalance within the brain, and therefore the manifestation of anxiety and depression. Now let's talk about the critical role of the vagus nerve in emotional regulation. The vagus nerve is the primary component of the parasympathetic, that rest and digest side of the nervous system, and it plays a crucial role in emotional regulation, stress recovery, and even social connection. And this wandering nerve connects the brain to vital organs to the heart, to the lungs, to the digestive system, and it helps regulate heart rate. It helps with breathing, digestion, inflammation, and even emotional states. And research shows that lower vagal tone, lower activity within the vagus nerve, is significantly linked to challenges in managing emotions and a heightened sensitivity to stress. Exactly what we see in teens with anxiety and depression. When vagus nerve function is compromised due to what we call subluxation and nervous system stress, it affects your teen's ability to calm themselves, to process emotions, and to maintain a balanced state in their mood, in their emotions, with their behavior. And this is what we call the perfect storm, leading to teen mental health issues. And this is a neurological dysfunction that often begins before birth. We have maternal stress during pregnancy, affecting the developing fetal nervous system through stress hormones that cross the placental barrier. And then there's things like birth interventions, physical stressors like forceps deliveries, C-sections, and these can cause subtle injuries to the upper neck and brainstem regions that potentially affect the vagus nerve that then leads to that stuck stress on the nervous system, what we call subluxation. Stress stuck on the nervous system. And then there's early childhood factors that continue building the foundation for later challenges. It can be repeated infections, it could be frequent antibiotic use, it could disrupt the gut-brain axis, it could be environmental toxins, physical injuries. There's so much stress that continues to add up. And then to add to all that, modern lifestyle factors significantly amplify these neurological imbalances because we've got increased technology, we've got sleep disruption, we've got decreased physical activity, and poor nutrition. So what does this look like in a teen? What are the signs of nervous system dysfunction in your teen? There's physical ones, emotional ones, and there's also behavioral indicators. So from a physical perspective, signs of nervous system dysfunction can look like sleep disturbances, appetite changes, digestive issues, continually getting sick, fatigued, exhausted, and restlessness. Now, some emotional indicators can show up as persistent sadness, excessive worry, irritability, and loss of interest. And from a behavioral standpoint, changes can include social withdrawal, decline academic performance, and increased sensitivity to criticism. This frequently signals the nervous system being in a dysregulated state rather than just your typical teen behavior. So if those are the signs, how do we truly find if the root cause is nervous system imbalance, is a dysregulated, dysautonomic nervous system? At Rising Health, we use advanced insight scanning technology. This helps us to directly measure the nervous system's function and identify specific areas of this dysregulation and dysautonomia. With HRV, that's one of the scans that we run in our office. It's the most important scan for determining, hey, is there anxiety and depression showing up? And let me show you what that looks like from an iPad perspective. This is the heart rate variability scan. This is really what shows us, okay, what is the quality of one's nervous system? And this is a scan following the care plan of a teen who was wrestling with these challenges with anxiety and depression. This covers, let's see, right here in June, and we have August, and we have September. So this is following a couple months of care under a care plan. And so this little white dot is where he plots. And on this left side of the graph, this is more of that fight or flight neurology. When we lose the ability to function, when we lose the ability to regulate ourselves, our system shifts more into that stress mode. And so we see that from this perspective. But what's also going on is there's exhaustion to the system. So one of the things that heart rate variability shows up as is activity, autonomic activity. How much energy does your system have in the tank? What is your body's battery? What is your capacity to handle stress? And when we see 62 out of 100, this shows us a vulnerable nervous system. This shows us more of that anxious, depressed, tired nervous system, one that's not going to have so much life to it. And so when we see that this is where a child is starting, this is where one of our teens were starting, this shows us there's a lot of opportunity to see the nervous system change in a positive way. And so as he got rolling with care, we started to see change. We started to see not only more life to his system, going from 62 to 75, but we saw more balance to his system. What we want to see is that ideally everyone is in this green box right on the midline as high as possible. This shows us a nervous system that is capable, that is more adaptable, that is more resilient. Stress isn't as stressful. And so when we see the nervous system move from this exhausted, depleted state to a much more regulated state, still has areas of opportunity, we still want to see that it gets to a more balanced state. But seeing the changes under care, how we care for the nervous system, it's not a treatment plan. It's not we're diagnosing and treating anxiety and depression. We're not curing anxiety or depression. What we're doing is we're caring for the nervous system. If the nervous system's designed to heal, if we can get it back into healing mode, if we can get the body communicating the right information to the brain so that it can respond in an appropriate way, in a way that isn't constant stress into the brain. So we're in constant stress mode. And when we're in constant stress mode and we're stuck and we're subluxated, it leads to a nervous system that's depressed, that's wound up and worn out at the same time. And so when we see the progression of just here, seeing how his system is more resilient, more balanced, yes, we could say, hey, there's areas of opportunity to get even more of a positive result. We acknowledge like this is how the body is designed to heal. When we get it back into healing mode, when it gets the right information, that's what we do through the adjustment based on these assessments, based on what we find through the scans like the HRV, heart rate variability, as well as other scans. We're able to develop a personalized care plan. And this includes specific adjustments that are designed to release that excessive stress, to release that sympathetic fight or flight activity within the nervous system, while also these adjustments are designed to stimulate the vagus nerve, to help the body shift into that parasympathetic function, to help the body heal, to recharge, to regenerate, to reorganize. And by addressing these neurological imbalances, we can help restore proper communication pathways between the brain and body, creating the physiological foundation for that improved emotional health, for that improved mood regulation. And so to kind of wrap up this video and to put it simply, like it's not easy being a teen in today's crazy world. But thankfully, they have a remarkable ability to bounce back and become resilient, to become adaptable, to become joyful once again. And the teen brain and nervous system is going through so many challenges all at once. And once we get that stuck sympathetic stress, that tension, that subluxation and exhaustion out of the way for them, it's programmed for healing and recovery. And that's the good news. At Rising Health, we've helped so many kids and teens struggling with anxiety and depression thrive once again, all without dangerous drugs and medications. Not because we treat or cure anxiety, depression, or mental health challenges, but because we address their foundational root cause: nervous system stress, dysregulation, and imbalance. And what parents often tell us, they feel renewed hope after learning about this nervous system focused and drug-free approach to healing. They're relieved to discover there's a different path they can take, one that doesn't rely on potentially dangerous medications with long-term side effects, but instead focuses on restoring proper function to the systems that naturally regulate mood, that naturally regulate stress and emotional well-being. So if your teen is struggling with anxiety or depression, it's likely their nervous system is imbalanced and dysregulated. And it's time to find out. So click the link in our bio to find out more. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.